The number of countries wishing to join the BRICS group of countries and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization (ESCO) has witnessed a sharp increase in recent years and recent months, currently reaching out to 20. That's right, we could possibly be seeing an alliance of more than 20 member states in the near future, with reach in a wide range of economic and political sectors on a global scale. Which nations are these, and why are so many nations showing interest in such a short period of time? Stay tuned to find out. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with new videos. During its 14th presidential meeting last year, the BRICS committed to reviewing proposals from nations interested in joining its roster. The Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs stated that the expansion process will be based on in-depth talks and the search for consensus among the 5 partners through consultations. It also emphasized Beijing's commitment to cooperate with other emerging markets and developing countries through that mechanism. The Russian foreign minister also mentioned that the nations in question play important roles in their respective areas. Egypt, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Indonesia, Argentina, Mexico, and a number of African nations are among the possible BRICS members. In the words of Lavrov, just listing the names of these countries already shows the failure of attempts to isolate our country, referring to Russia. China has stated that it will collaborate with the other BRICS members, including Brazil, Russia, India, and South Africa, to assess and expedite the applications of governments interested in joining the bloc. So why are so many nations taking an interest in joining BRICS? Since Russia launched its special military operation in Ukraine on February 24, 2022, the world is divided into 2 camps. Those who support Moscow and accuse NATO of inciting the conflict, and those who condemn Russia's actions and impose sanctions on the country while increasing financial and military aid to Kyiv. Other countries have also maintained a neutral stance on the subject. In this difficult year, when hegemony, a Cold War mindset, and camp antagonism are rampant and continue to threaten developing nations' progress, their demand for open, inclusive, mutual respect-based partnership is stronger than ever. Unlike the closed and outdated G7, BRICS has no strings attached, and all cooperation is mutually beneficial, according to the expert. The BRICS nations account for almost a quarter of the global GDP. According to the Xinhua news agency, they have contributed 50% of global economic development in recent years. The June BRICS Summit Beijing Declaration resolved to propose talks among its members on the group's growth process, as well as the elaboration of guiding principles, standards, criteria, and processes for this expansion process after complete consultation and consensus. Now, here's an interesting question. What outcomes or impacts may be wrought in the international world order and global economy by reason of an expanding BRICS? One of the potential geoeconomic and geostrategic implications of this BRICS expansion is that great countries, as well as medium and minor nations, are seeking alliances and safeguarding strategic interests in the face of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and systemic competition between the United States and China. As the prospective BRICS expansion indicates, great power competition complicates everything, and in this context, the BRICS growth has raised concerns about its possible geoeconomic and geostrategic ramifications. Now, the 5 members account for over 30% of the world's total land surface and 41% of its population. They account for 16% of global commerce and around 24% of global GDP. While the BRICS countries are underrepresented in the global financial system, their combined economy might equal half of world GDP by 2030, given the possibility of more nations joining. It is not unrealistic to anticipate this to happen considerably faster than predicted. A resource-rich enlarged BRICS might account for more than half of the world's population, including nations with younger populations and strong population growth. In addition, The economic bloc would own 60% of known world gas reserves, 45% of known global oil reserves, and considerable amounts of natural resources, such as water and rare earth minerals. A larger BRICS might help initiatives for increased connectivity among current and prospective members. For example, Indonesia's desire to join an OPEC-like nickel group might become part of a larger BRICS collective for crucial and rare earth minerals. This might improve transportation, energy supply, and trade between these nations, as well as between these countries and other economic blocs and international organizations to which possible future BRICS members belong. Furthermore, the possible new members' various locations and closeness to global choke points may result in BRICS nations having greater control over current supply chains or even developing new ones. This would let nations in the grouping increase their influence across the world, as well as build alternative global political, economic, and security systems. The admission of new BRICS members, in particular, helps China and Russia's shared goals of a multipolar world and de-dollarization. Both nations want to defend their interests from the US's geopolitical and geo-economic rivalry and prevent more sanctions. At the same time, this might help Beijing achieve its goal of becoming the head of international organizations. In this scenario, Beijing's desire to reform and extend BRICS under Chinese leadership may be interpreted as an attempt to limit New Delhi's rising regional and global influence. Joining the BRICS might provide possibilities to assist the growth of multipolarity and an economic bloc that can better serve their interests, while structural US-China competition continues in the background. It may also allow these nations to safeguard their own interests by balancing or even playing the West and BRICS against each other. While these initiatives may split nations into backing the West or a China-Russia collaboration via BRICS, India's ascent and place in the global order may change this. For example, India might pursue its goal of becoming a third pillar in a multipolar world, support the West, or join a trilateral alliance with Russia and China, bringing three of Eurasia's greatest powers together. Now let's talk about oil prowess. Among OPEC Plus members, Russia is the second largest crude oil producer and is self-sufficient in terms of oil production. Due to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the United States and its European allies placed sanctions on Russia, and several European nations reduced their reliance on Russian oil. Saudi Arabia, Russia, Iraq, Oman, Brazil, and Kuwait are China's primary oil suppliers. In 2022, China will raise its crude oil imports from Russia by 21%. OPEC Plus members resolved 2 months ago to limit their oil output by 2 million barrels per day, which will continue until the end of 2023. The United States of America and other Western countries heightened tensions. Saudi Arabia is one of the world's top crude oil exporters, accounting for 11% of global petroleum liquid output and holding 15% of global oil reserves. It has announced plans to increase its oil output from 10 to 13 million barrels per day. Egypt is a major producer and exporter of petroleum. It also exports cotton and textiles, as well as raw materials, chemicals, and petroleum products. Egypt is a Shanghai Cooperation Organization conversation partner. Iran has the world's greatest hydrocarbon reserves. The Western world imposes sanctions on Iran on a regular basis. Iran also belongs to OPEC Plus and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Algeria is the world's 10th largest natural gas reservoir and the 6th largest gas exporter. It also belongs to OPEC Plus. Turkey exports automobiles and components, as well as gold and petroleum oil. It is the world's 7th largest cotton exporter. Argentina is a significant wheat and corn exporter. If Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Iran, Argentina, and Turkey join BRICS, it would have a huge influence on world order and the global economy. First, the oil-producing countries' area of influence will be expanded. and the global economy's oil market structure will shift. Second, Brazilian President Lula da Silva also proposed creating a common currency for the BRICS countries. If this occurs, a more stable currency will be produced. Third, as China, Russia, and Iran compete with the United States, they will form additional alliances to counter the United States' global power. Fourth, because the United States dollar is the world's dominant currency in the global financial and monetary system and is the center of the US, the dollar's hegemonic dominance will be weakened as a worldwide leader. De-dollarization will be hastened if the BRICS members agree to continue trading in a unified currency. Fifth, with Turkey, Algeria, Iran, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and others already expressing interest in joining BRICS, the process of increasing BRICS global influence will accelerate. Russia and China will jointly dominate the international order. Sixth, the vast majority of the country's reserve problem will be remedied. Seventh, Saudi Arabia, Russia, and Brazil will be able to collectively export oil to China, India, Egypt, and Turkey. With almost $50 billion in trade, China is Saudi Arabia's largest commercial partner. Eighth, China and Russia's investments in Africa will be expanded. South Africa's major commercial partner is China. Because of its natural richness and position, South Africa is more advanced than any other African country. Ninth, de-dollarization will harm the United States' capacity to influence the conduct of its adversaries. If the BRICS continue to grow, China will be able to simply push its agenda and grand plan throughout the world. 10th, according to the World Bank, BRICS would grow at a 6.26% annual rate in 2021, in contrast to the G7's increase at 5.15%. If BRICS continues to acquire more members, it will emerge as a formidable global leadership force. Conclusively, with its lofty goals, the BRICS expansion looks to have a lot of potential. A bigger BRICS group might have greater influence over important economic routes and exports, in addition to ushering in a multipolar world. Other supply chains and trade channels, as well as a new global banking system, would help these aspirations fuel competition with the West even further. Yet, there are several uncertainties that must be addressed before this can be accomplished. Many interconnected domestic issues must be settled before numerous potential members may join. Likewise, regional rivalries must be set aside for other possible members to assure inclusion. Although numerous nations have indicated a desire to join BRICS, the expansion will take some time until all current members agree on requirements. The awarding of formal membership is more likely to begin after the BRICS meeting in August. And now, let us hear from you. Is the BRICS expansion a positive or negative step in the global power scheme? Is such power and influence in the hands of BRICS a positive or negative for the world at this time? Share your thoughts and opinions in the comments section below. Foreign.